everybody, and welcome to BingeFest. I'm Vinnie Civitillo.
And I'm Kay Conroy.
This is a brand new podcast where we're going to be binging a season or two of TV every episode and discussing it. You'll be able to get this anywhere you can get a podcast. That's iTunes, Spotify, etc., etc., etc. But please don't forget to engage. Write that 5-star review, like it, comment on it. Let Google's algorithm know you're out there so the show gets put in front of more awesome people just like you.
We appreciate it, and we will see you here every other week. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Binge Fest, the show that lets you binge all your favorite shows and also hate watch some of your favorite shows too.
Or just whatever we decide to watch, right?
Or just whatever we decide to watch. Yeah, this is the spiritual successor of Other People's Business.
Which, if you haven't watched that, it's actually out there. You should totally check it out. Search Other People's
Yes.
Business. If you don't know what NJBIA is and you have business interests in New Jersey, they're pretty cool. Check them out.
Yeah, it's not bad. It was a fun show to do. It was really fun.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so this show is taking the parts of that show that we liked the most, i.e., talking about pop culture and TV, and just stripping away all of the other stuff we didn't love the most. Like,
I'm not. Yeah, I'm not gonna say I didn't like it. It's just sure.
love.
The
I
the
said
fun
love.
stuff. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah, we liked it. We just didn't love it the way that we loved talking about TV. Um, and today we're talking about one of my all-time favorite shows, Gilmore Girls. And the thing is, we're only going to be talking about seasons 1 and 2, mainly because that's all Vinny has seen. He is a brand new watcher of this show. I've seen it multiple times.
All right. Technically speaking, um, as far as like memories of watching the show go, I have seen Gilmore Girls before, just like random episodes. So after
Oh,
college, I had an apartment with a roommate, and I we would watch TV together sometimes. Like I would put on Lost, she'd put on Gilmore Girls. So I've seen like some episodes, and
yeah.
then my wife Tara, we watched the revival season together. But because I
Ooh.
wasn't really like into it, I didn't know a whole like so like I know how it ends, because
Yeah.
that's a pretty big ending. But aside from that, and I know who Lorelai's gonna wind up with, but that's really it. Like I don't remember anything else about it.
So why don't I just give the broad brushstrokes on this show in
Yeah.
case the person listening, the people listening, aren't familiar with it. So before the show was even a glimmer in the eye, Amy Sherman Palladino, who was the showrunner, creator, producer, writer, had a meeting at Warner Brothers, and she pitched like 5 shows. And every single one of the shows, Warner Brothers was like, nah, nah, nah. They were not into it. And so at the very end of the meeting, as like a Hail Mary, she says, okay, well, what about a show where it's a single mom who was a young mom? She had the baby when she was 16. She was a teen mom. She had to figure it out. She had a hard like life with her family. They were really rich, but they didn't accept her for who she was. And but now the daughter is 16 years old, and that's how it opens, and they're best friends. What do you think of that? And Warner Brothers was like, say more. They were totally into the idea. It was unlike anything that they had ever produced or put on the air before. And season 1 was a huge, huge hit. Season 2 was a little bit of, not a little, it was a sophomore slump. Creatively, a lot of the fans were really pissed off about season 2 because of the decisions that were made. But Vinny, you keep like trying to talk, so I'm gonna like pause.
I, I was gonna say, first of all, how bad did the other pitches have to be that like I've got a story about a mom and her kid? Like, tell us more about that.
I know. No, you're right. It doesn't. It's pretty thin. You're right.
And then all the talk of Warner Brothers leads me to ask, was this a CW show? Or
No,
like
it
a
was originally
WB show back in the day?
no. This predates that merger.
Right. So it would have been WB in that era, but like I think
Yeah.
the WB CW switchover happened sometime during Smallville, which would have meant sometime during Gilmore Girls. So
Yeah,
what
that's
channel was
probably
it on?
true.
Yeah.
It was on channel
You're gonna
11.
give me a number. I mean, like,
It was on the
ABC,
WB.
NBC, like it was what is one of those, or like
No, it was on the WB. It was on
Oh,
cable.
yeah. See, that's what I meant. Like it's Warner Brothers. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Sorry. What did I misunderstand about that? I don't know
Well, I
how
asked,
should
was it
I?
on the CW or WB before that? And you were like, no, 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 no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant no, not the CW.
Yeah.
Yes, Warner Brothers. My
Okay.
bad.
Sure.
Anyway. Um, so I remember watching it and loving it, the season one. I got into it when they were failing at season two. And so in order to get people to watch season two, they were rerunning old episodes on like Saturday night. I don't know why they I don't know whose decision that was. I've never seen another TV show do that, but it was called Gilmore Girls Revisited, and it was just old episodes of season one in
Season
order
before
to
this.
right, exactly. It was really strange. But I loved it so much. And I like went down rabbit holes hard. Like I was in chat rooms, like when there were chat rooms. I don't know if chat rooms even still exist, but
Oh, now? I mean, you have forums, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, I was in chat forums. Oh my gosh. I used to make screenshot captions where you would like make a find a screenshot of them making like any kind of face at all and then caption it. Probably that is how I came to have the Kate Middleton caption Instagram account, which is much bigger than I ever thought it would be. But but yeah,
And if you
screenshots. I
haven't
used to
heard of that,
write.
Kate, give the handle on Instagram.
Oh yeah. Okay. It's the letter K and the number 8 as in Kate, and then Middleton with 2 N's at the end. Kate Middleton on Instagram. But yeah, I used to write Gilmore Girls fan fiction. Like that is how into it I was, and I will never give you that handle. Like that
Oh,
is
come
never.
on. Come on.
No, never, never.
All right. All
But
right.
okay, so those are kind of the broad brushstrokes on the show itself and my relationship with the show. Do you want to talk about your experience watching it?
I mean, I'm surprised that there was such an acknowledgement of season two being that much worse than season one. Because I mean, I think as a season story arc goes, season two feels kind of aimless. But what year are we talking about here? Like this is like 2001, 2002, somewhere in that
I think
ballpark.
so. I
We're
think so.
still in
Yeah.
the era where you can have just like one-off random episodes. Like this is pre-Lost,
Yeah.
pre-24. At this point, like people are kind of used to like individual episodes of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Not
I
every
mean,
episode matters.
I'm surprised. Like I mean, watching it now, I was like, all right, where are they going with this season? And it kind of
Right.
fell flat. But I'm surprised at the time there was such a rebellion against that.
So I would say that okay, not to be sexist, but the majority of people who watch the show were girls, right?
Sure.
And people had an emotional investment in Dean and Rory's relationship with Dean. He was her first boyfriend, right?
Yeah.
And then season 2 comes along and introduces Jess, the bad boy, and people either
It's
were
total horse manure.
hardcore. I know it is. It's ridiculous. People were so totally into Jess or hated Jess with a passion and were so into Dean. And that I think is what fueled a lot of the people who were like, screw Jess, screw season 2. This is crap.
Yeah. And so then they lean. I don't want to give away stuff from season three, but I mean, my prediction of where this is going is like she's dating Dean. Now she's dating Jess. Now she's dating Dean. Now she's dating Jess. Like until the
You're not
series
wrong.
ends. I don't know. That's kind of where. But the only thing maybe making me think maybe that won't happen is that I know Milo Ventimiglia is going to get a new job very soon because he's
Yeah.
Peter Petrelli on Heroes. He's Rocky Balboa Jr. and Rocky
Yep.
Balboa. So like, I mean,
Yep.
I know he's got some work coming up. Maybe they got to cut him out of the show for a while, but I
The other thing that made season 2 really hard to watch, I think, was Daniel Palladino, who's married to Amy, became one of the main writers on the show in season 2. And Daniel Palladino works a lot or worked a lot on Family Guy. So if you can imagine the ethos of
yeah,
Family
sure.
Guy
Yeah.
transplanted into Gilmore Girls, whenever he was the writer, the characters got a little meaner, things got a little more chaotic. It just wasn't true to the spirit of the show, I think, and that's where a lot of people were pissed off.
So I think one of the first things I texted you when I was watching this was I have a working hypothesis, and it's that we're supposed to like Lorelai, but she also kind of sucks.
Yeah, she does.
And I think like some of the things that I was telling you to back that up, you were like, "Oh, that's not an Amy Sherman episode." That's yeah.
It's a Daniel Palladino episode. Yeah,
Mm.
whenever he's the writer, people get a little meaner, and Lorelai gets really kind of awful. One of the things that she said also was, only children tend to be a little bit spoiled, a little bit self-centered, and Rory exhibits some of that throughout the show. And Lorelai is also an only child. And regardless of her relationship with her parents and her rejecting them, she also can be a little bit spoiled and a little bit, mm,
Lorelai?
yeah,
Oh, Lorelai is hella spoiled. Lorelai
yeah,
is more immature than Rory is, or
yeah,
at least
she
that's
is.
kind of where what I was kind of picking up while I was watching it. Um,
Yeah,
there's there's a long running thing that the writers of South Park, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, like to say about Eric Cartman, and it's that when the parents try to be best friends with the kid, you wind up with like a really spoiled, entitled kid. It never works out. It's awful. Like, and
yep,
I mean, I remember, not to be spoilery, but I remember like one of my big takeaways from the revival season was how entitled and spoiled and how much of like not so great of a person Rory was during that season. And so when I watched this, I'm like, oh, maybe that's where they're going
yeah.
on purpose. Maybe not. I don't know. But I mean, they would have to be going there on purpose because they're writing the show. But, you know,
I also, well, okay, so that's a really good question. I think they would argue that she's not spoiled. I think they would argue that she's exhibiting some of the best and worst traits of her mother because
yeah,
that they grew up together. I mean, Lorelai was
yeah.
16 when she had Rory, but I don't know if they would call her spoiled or entitled. I would. I agree with
Huh.
you. I think that it's really hard to raise an only child in a way that keeps them grounded. And, elephant in the room, Chloe's an only child, and you guys are doing great.
Yes, she is. But I try. Okay, so like the I don't want to be like an asshole to her, but at the same time, I'm not trying to be her best friend either. Like
Right.
you know I am always like if I need to be bad cop, I can slip right into that. And it's cool to hang out and it's cool to do fun things together and make nice memories. Absolutely, but you know at least every day there is a scenario where I have to slip into like, okay, I'm the bad
Yeah.
cop now. And I have no issues doing that whatsoever.
So I'm gonna pick an example because it's the one that keeps popping into my head of Lorelai being the bad cop. Do you remember in season one, episode one, Rory's gotten into Chilton, but she's also just met Dean. And so now she's talking about, well, maybe I won't go to Chilton. Maybe I'll just keep going to Stars Hollow High and I'll be able to get into Harvard, even though I didn't go to this fancy prep school. And Lorelai attempts to lay down the law, and Rory just walks away from her. And
Yeah.
Lorelai follows her home, kind of yelling the whole way. Like, I think at one point she says, "You're gonna have to walk faster than that to get away from me. You're gonna have to turn into freaking Flojo."
Mm,
But Rory just keeps walking, like is not going to engage with her mother at all. And I'm like,
yeah.
it was just fascinating because she's really trying to be bad cop and she's not having an impact.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say that she never did it. I mean, I know there was
Right.
an episode where they went to the Bangles concert and like two of the girls slipped off, and
Yep.
she was like, "Okay, gotta transform into parent woman now." But I don't know, like you said, like it's the sort of thing that she doesn't do often enough to,
Be
generate the
good at.
kind of respect that's needed.
Right.
But yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know if it's just that she's really immature or that she just doesn't know how. I don't know. I don't know.
I think it's both. The immaturity, I hate to say that. I mean, she's a grown woman and she raised a kid. Like, it's hard to call her immature. But if you look at her own,
Oh, it's very easy for me to call her immature. Yeah.
so let's talk about her romantic
Yeah.
history. I mean, Max. She said yes to Max, and then like
After
basically
almost no time at all dating either.
no
Like,
time,
yeah. And
no
that whole
time at all.
relationship really got under my skin because they made a point. First of all, one of the first things that I wrote down about the show is that every male in this show seems to ask out Lorelai at some point or another. Like
Yeah.
every single one. But they made a point on, I guess it was Rory's first day at Chilton, that one of the other parents asks
Yes.
Lorelai out. And she's
Yes.
like, whoa, I can't do that because
I can't
that
date a
would
parent.
create an awkward situation for my daughter. And what does she do? She turns right around and dates her
Dates a
daughter's teacher.
teacher.
Yeah, like that
Like,
was just an
what's
awful thing
worse?
to do. Like,
The
yeah,
teacher is worse. Holy
yeah.
fuck.
And
Like, give me a break.
she didn't care the kind of positions that high school children were going to put her in, put Rory in because of that. Like,
Yes.
I don't know if this is season 2. There is a moment where Paris like tells the whole school that like
Oh, yeah.
Lorelai and the teacher are dating or
Max.
whatever. Yeah.
Yep. That's
So
season one. It's
yeah.
humiliating and horrible.
Oh, it would have to be season 1, right? Because the
Yeah.
engagement ends. I want to say like either the end of season, yeah, the end of season 1,
Yeah.
right? Like
End of
they
season
take
one.
off. Like, yeah, okay,
They do a road trip to
yeah,
wherever. Harvard.
yeah, Harvard, yeah.
Ridiculous.
I don't know,
Okay,
like, oh,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. I know I was gonna say like just talking about relationships, the way that she treats Luke is kind of awful.
Ugh,
Like I
right?
know I am aware of where they're going with that relationship, but like she is 100% aware that he has a thing for her. Maybe he's in love with her. I don't know, like some level of that. And
Yes.
the way that
She
she just keeps like
using
blatantly
him,
friend zoning him, like like
but also using him.
yeah,
Like he comes over on her birthday to fix a list of items.
yeah.
He's constantly doing things for her.
Well, that's the thing. Like I was gonna say, it's one thing to friend zone somebody. It's another
Right.
thing to like friend zone somebody and continue taking advantage of them. You know, ah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
It's
don't
really
know.
shitty.
It is. It is. She's kind of a shitty person from time to time. Like, okay,
She's
there's an
yeah.
episode where Rory, or not Rory, sorry, Lorelai, just for the sake of snapping at Rory, you know, complains about Rory's cup size. Like,
Yeah.
and I was just like, all right, as a parent, never. Like, like,
It's
first of
just
all,
so
like, no, like, like
you
it was
can't,
just so
yeah.
awful, like that you would body shame your teenage daughter. But I was just like, what are they thinking when they write this character? Are we
So
supposed to like her? Like,
here's the thing though. You're looking at it from the lens of 2023. In 2001, the phrase body shaming, I don't think existed.
I
I
guess.
still think
I
it's a
mean,
terrible
yeah,
thing
that's
to
fair.
do.
I mean, I'm watching it now. Yeah, that's fair. It's fair.
It's still a
I was
terrible
not a
thing to
parent in
do,
2001, so I probably wouldn't have had the same reaction. But I don't know.
but
I
it's
mean, I
still
feel
not
like
great. It's not
yeah,
great.
it can't be great.
So let's talk a little bit about the tertiary characters,
Sure.
because there are two characters, um, Babette and Suki, who
Wait, which one is Babette? Is that Suzanne
Babette
Summers?
is Sally Struthers.
Sally Struthers. Sorry,
Suzanne
not Suzanne
Summers. Can you
Summers.
imagine? Can you imagine Suzanne Summers on this show?
Rest in
So,
peace.
exactly. Sally Struthers was such an interesting get. And she was on the show for the whole time. She played the next door neighbor, Babette. And Suki, obviously Melissa McCarthy,
Yeah.
she's so big at this point, there's no way that Gilmore Girls would have been able to get her.
She's big now. You don't mean then, right?
No, not then. Now she's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
big that there's no way they would have been able to get her if this show was produced now.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting. This Sally Struthers, this once upon a time massive star, and Suki, who was about to be a massive star on the show, not on the show, when she was on the show.
Well, I was gonna say it took a while, right? Like I don't think Melissa McCarthy became big until let's say like Bridesmaids era, and I
Yeah,
want to
but that
say
was
that
only a
was the
few years.
2010s.
Yeah, but Gilmore Girls ended in 8, so it was only
Yeah, so
like
I mean, it's still a long
2 years.
time before she. No, okay, from the end, yeah, but like from the time when it began, you're
You're
talking about a
right.
decade before she's really
You're
gonna
right.
like break out. Yeah,
You're right. But by the time Gilmore Girls was ending, she was just about to like really break
yeah,
out.
yeah. I think she
All
signed a
right.
contract for Mike and Molly, and she got really big right after that. And they got her at like before they were stars money. So congrats to
Yeah.
the network on that one.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Lorelai's parents, unless you had any last thoughts on
No, no,
Babette
no
and
thoughts on
Suki.
Babette and who was the other one? I'm sorry, we went down that rabbit hole.
Suki.
Suki,
Suki.
Suki. Sorry. No, I don't think I really have any comments on Suki. I think Melissa McCarthy's great.
Yeah.
I loved her in the Happy Time Murders. Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Okay.
Have you ever heard, like, do you know what I'm talking about when I say that?
No.
So not Jim Henson, Brian Henson, I think Jim Henson's son made a Muppet movie basically, but not with the real Muppet characters because you're
Wow.
not going to be able to get away with this. It's an R-rated Muppet movie where Melissa McCarthy is a detective, and I'll send you a trailer. It's hilarious. I
Please
also really
do.
liked her in the 2016 Ghostbusters.
I
Oh
didn't see that either.
my god, do you watch
I
movies at
know.
all? Like,
You know what? I tend to do a lot of TV shows. I don't, I mean, I do watch movies every once in a while, but not as much as I watch TV.
All right, that's fair. I mean, it takes like
Anyway,
1/8 of the time to watch a movie, but
I know.
um, yeah. I mean, I've always liked Melissa McCarthy. I think she's great. And she was
Yeah.
adorable in this. So yeah.
I'll check it out.
So Emily
Okay.
and Richard, right?
Yeah, Richard and Emily. Um,
So
Obviously, go ahead.
one of the things that I wrote down, I'm gonna read this word for word. Absent of
Okay.
some kind of incident, Lorelai's estrangement and relationship with her parents seems strange. Her parents seem genuinely interested in being a meaningful part of Rory's life. Why? Like, I don't mean why do they want to be a genuine, part of Rory's life. I mean, why do this? I mean, they have never given us any real indication of why there needs to be like this scathing, visceral hatred between these two people. Like, we even got sorry, this is season 3, but we did get a flashback episode. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, here we go. This is gonna be it. This is gonna be the point where we see like this awful thing that Emily says to, and like Emily was always like kind of a jerk, but
Yeah.
not like not like, okay, I'm gonna see you on Christmas and then again on Easter and then again on Christmas. Like kind of a jerk.
Yeah, I would agree with you. There are some incidents that happen later on in seasons like maybe 5 and 6 that are really bad.
Well,
But in
yeah, because at
terms of
this point they've poisoned the
explaining,
well. Like they already have the relationship that they have. But
right?
like at this point, I would ask why. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I get that Lorelai wants to be independent. I get that she didn't want to share in that lifestyle, and it was totally within her, right to go off and lead her own life. Absolutely. But like the way that she treats them is just awful. And it's again, it's part of the package of Lorelai kind of sucks, because her parents do genuinely seem to want to be part of Rory's life. They're like blackmailing her into it,
Yes.
but they want to be part of her life.
Well, it's so here's an interesting observation because you're totally right, I think. There's a moment when they've done something to upset Rory. Oh, her birthday party, season 1, and her
Yeah.
her birthday party. They
Yeah.
invite the whole school.
Yeah.
They are still like calling Rory Mary and they're making fun of her. Like she doesn't have
Yeah.
any friends at that school yet. And they've made a misstep and they're not willing to admit that it was a bad idea and whatever. And Lorelai is kind of yelling at Emily, and Emily says something like, well, if this is truly how Rory feels, why doesn't she tell me about it herself? And Lorelai says, because she's a sweet kid, she would never do that to you. And Emily says, and she also knows that you'll do it for her. And I was just like, yeah, Like there are moments when Rory maybe could have stepped in and handled things differently. And as she
Sure.
gets older, she does. But man, Lorelai is just off the rails sometimes.
Rory is written in a really weird way. Like she has the same, let's say, like pop culture and general intelligence that Lorelai does. I mean, her general intelligence is probably much greater than Lorelai's, but like the
Right.
for like pop culture kind of like everything knowledge. And she has that same quick wit, but
Yeah.
she doesn't have like the socialization in
Right.
a lot of ways that Lorelai had. Like she's not as social. She's a lot more, I don't know, reserved, shy. But like
But
it's go ahead.
you actually, when you were watching, you texted me. No wonder Rory is reserved and shy if her mother is like making fun of her about cup size and
Yeah.
giving her a hard time about things that are a little awkward. I would be, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense that she would be like that. How could she compete with Lorelai? Like Lorelai is kind of like the sun, and Rory is just trying to like
Yeah.
get a little, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's especially when she's around boys. I mean, I could get
Yeah.
that that's just something that, maybe even like a very social person would have to deal with, but
Right.
I don't know, it just seems weird. And then like there are weird inconsistencies. Like Lane brings up M. Night Shyamalan and Rory goes, "Who?" And I was like, "What?"
Yeah.
Because I don't know if like if some of our listeners were not, let's say, of age or around in 2001, there is simply
Right.
no way on earth that anybody would not know who M. Night Shyamalan is, particularly somebody with Rory's encyclopedic knowledge of pop culture. Like it was
Right.
everywhere. Like you couldn't turn on the TV without somebody making a reference to The Sixth Sense. In 1999, 2000, 2001, it was so everywhere. And I just took a step back there for a second. Like
A lot of
what is
those
with this
cultural
weird inconsistent
references.
writing?
Yeah, no, you're right. A lot of those cultural references were Daniel Palladino trying to show the world how smart he is.
I mean, but they kind of do that anyway without like most of the time their references go let's call it like called out. Like, it's not like somebody like every once in a while somebody will say something and then Jess will turn around and be like, Oliver Twist. But like it's not like, like
But
half the time, like sometimes Lorelai will like answer her own joke, be like, "Oh, you didn't get it? That was Shane," but like, I don't know.
but okay, how about in season 2 when Jess is clearly smarter than Dean and there's like weird shame attached to it. Like
Yeah.
Rory is always propping up Dean because he's stupid.
Yeah.
I'll try to read it again. Versus Jess, who's like, "Oh, I just picked up On the Road for the third time. Kerouac is so dope." And Rory's all starry-eyed. It's just gross. Do you know what I mean? Like
I mean, the
the
Jess Rory relationship just makes no sense to me at all. Because I get the idea that she's attracted to him because of those shared interests and they both like the
right,
books. But then like they get together and it's like, hi, hi, hi,
right,
hi, kiss, 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 hi, 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 hi. And they have no idea what to talk about. And I'm like, you're not going to talk about the books? Like,
right.
I don't know. And it doesn't make sense to me that she would be into the bad boy. And it doesn't make sense
No,
to me that he would be the bad boy. Like, I don't
it
know.
doesn't make sense to me that he would be into her. You know what I mean? Like, what does she have? I mean,
Yeah.
she's beautiful, she's smart, but he can't possibly think that he's going to have a relationship with her in the same way that he would have a relationship with some other girl in high
I mean,
school.
I
You
think
know what
it's
I mean?
just a
Like
lack of options. There's only two girls in Stars Hollow. It's Rory and what's her name?
Shane.
No,
Oh,
who's the other girl?
Lane.
Lane. I kept thinking Mrs. Kim in my head because one of the things that I wrote down was Mrs. Kim is fucking metal. Like, so
She
she
is.
rules her house with an iron fist. But
Yeah.
I
It's
couldn't think of the
interesting
daughter's
because
name for a second there.
you never see Mr. Kim. Like, Mr. Kim is just out of the picture, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess I just assumed that he died or that he left. I mean,
They
I'm
never
sure
talk
that.
about him,
Yeah, no, no, it's never been brought up. At least
right?
not in anything I've watched. Yeah, no, no.
It's never, yeah, it's never been brought up. Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, those
But
are the
yeah,
only two
Mrs.
girls. I
Kim.
don't.
Yeah, no, you're right. Well, Shane comes along
Yeah.
to make Rory jealous, but she is literally just a device that the writers used.
Yeah, it's just like I'm sure the
Stupid.
auditions were like, "Do you want to kiss Milo Ventimiglia and have that be the only thing you do?" By all
Right.
means, audition. Yeah.
That's right. All right. Speaking of Girls in Stars Hollow, how about Paris?
Paris is so weird. Like so, and I don't I get that she's supposed to be weird,
Yeah.
but just so weird. Like the amount of back and forth. Like Rory is just too good to her. Like
Yeah.
every time, she's been nothing but nice to that girl. And Paris just constantly snaps at her. I mean, I think the point where I am now, I'm in season 3 somewhere, and um Rory got set up, with the,
Yeah.
the the pictures or whatever, and
Yeah.
Paris is mad at her again. And I'm like, I thought we were beyond this. And what bugs me about it is that every time Paris gets mad at Rory, the other two girls get mad at Rory, or at least they're not allowed to talk to her, and she loses every single friend she has in the school. Just like
Yep.
that. Like it's like every time. And I'm like, God, I thought we were beyond this. How many times does she have to go back and forth with these girls before she makes
Yeah.
other friends?
Well, exactly, because that's the problem with the show. I mean, it's not the only problem, but the cast of characters is big, but not big enough. Do you know what I mean? Like, how many times does this have to happen before Rory makes a new friend? Like, really?
Well, okay, so there was an episode, and it was so strange. They introduced like a sorority or something at the
Yeah.
school, the
The
Puffs,
Puffs.
and for no reason other than the principal was like, "You should make friends." Rory
Right.
becomes a Puff. Like she goes through the whole process,
Yep.
hits the bell and everything, and then they never bring it up again. And
Nope.
presumably Paris joined too. I mean, that.
Yeah.
I mean, technically the principal walks in before Paris gets to hit the bell. But you'd
Right.
say that wasn't really her fault. But Rory hit the bell. She's in the sorority. The next time they bring that up is like a whole year later when some other girl on the student council is a Puff and wants the hemlines brought up or whatever.
Yes.
And that's the only ever time it was brought up again. And I'm like, oh, we're talking about the Puffs again. Like, and I was just like, they hyped this up to be this like really important sorority, and it was all
Yep.
that Paris ever wanted. And then suddenly it was just like, oh well, that was just that episode. We're never going to talk about that again.
I think it's one of the things that happens when you have to fill 22 episodes of time,
That's fair.
just just episodes don't matter. There are
I
episodes
think
that
that's
just
going
don't
to be a
matter.
common thing that we talk about when we talk about shows that are that vintage, like pre-streaming
Yeah.
era, 10 episode seasons. I don't think
Yeah.
there's a single show I've ever really loved that I thought this season couldn't be shorter. I mean, when we talk
Right.
about Lois and Clark, there's so little of it, and it was a show that I really loved. So I'll take as many episodes as they were able to make. But if they were
Yeah.
making that now and it was 23 episodes a season, I'd be like, calm down. Bring it
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually am trying really hard to think about a season of television that was 22 episodes and every episode was perfect.
Oh, I'm
That's
sure.
going to
Well, I
take,
mean, how long were the Breaking Bad seasons?
no, they were like 8, 9, 10
Were
episodes.
they? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause that was an AMC show.
Yeah. I
Yeah. This
really
is going
thought
to be
AMC.
hard.
Hold on. We're gonna bring a time out here, and when we come back, we will know how many episodes there were in Breaking Bad. Hold on. Okay, it was 7 episodes. You're right. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm so shocked.
I
I
know.
really
I
thought
think
by the time
because
season 1, episode 7 was rolling around, they were still, like figuring things out. But
mm-mm. Um
because
all
I was
right.
just telling you, I have a cold right now, and I
Yeah, me
rewatched
too.
the episode where they get, like Jesse freaks out on Walt because he's like, "Where are we gonna get that much soda?" And I need soda right now. That was season 1, episode 7, and I guess that was the season finale, and I didn't even realize it. But they were still figuring out how they're gonna make
Yeah.
meth, But yeah,
It was a
sorry,
very
Paris.
that show is a very long, slow burn. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna add it to our list of shows
Oh, we're
to
absolutely gonna talk about that at
talk
some point.
about.
One of
Yeah.
the things that people may or may not know, it's definitely out there, is that when Kate and I first started Other People's Business, the very first thing that we did was a sound check where we discussed Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So
Yeah.
that was, yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that show.
Close to our hearts.
Yeah.
All right.
Paris. Sorry.
Paris. Yeah. So I just feel like she was cartoonishly bad,
Yeah.
cartoonishly mean, like mustache twirlingly
Yeah.
mean in a way that was unnecessary. Like it for somebody who was supposed to be super, super focused on grades and homework, and she just spent so much energy torturing Rory for no reason.
Yeah. I mean, I think the first time was when Rory comes, like, I don't know, she gives her the wrong time for the newspaper
Yeah.
meeting, and she gives her like the awful assignment of like whatever it was,
The
like they're
parking
repaving
lot.
the parking lot, and she turns it into like this this masterpiece, and
She
the
does.
advisor is just like, oh my gosh, it took my breath away. Story about
Yeah.
the parking lot getting repaved. So I guess she sets up this adversary for herself, but at the same time, like they're friends, they're not, they're frenemies. I don't know.
They're frenemies. But
Yeah.
it's funny because as soon as they're out of high school, and this is a little spoilery, Paris starts referring to Rory as her best friend. And so Rory is one of those Tahani situations where she's like, I'm I'm Paris's best friend, but she's not my best friend.
Yeah. I mean, even as early as season 3, when in the time that she's currently mad at her now while I'm watching,
Right.
she tells her like, "I thought you were my best friend." So,
Which just, oh my God.
yeah.
Like,
So
come on,
other
Paris.
random background characters, right? We got one of the ones that an odd background character is Kirk. So
Yes.
the first time I see Kirk, I don't know. I think he's like installing DSL for
And
Lorelai or
his name
something.
isn't Kirk. They
Was
changed
it?
his name. No,
Oh,
if you rewatch season 1, episode 1, he's at the house installing DSL, and his name is Mick. He
ah,
introduces himself to Lorelai as Mick, and then the next time we see him, he becomes a recurring character, and they've changed his name to Kirk. I guess because
okay,
K sounds are funnier than M sounds.
sure. I mean, I guess the weird thing is, I was gonna say the next time I see him, he's an exterminator, and at that
Yeah.
point, I wasn't sure if maybe like it was, maybe like one of those things like, oh, we just brought him back because you're not gonna notice, and then it turns out that he winds up being kind of like the town clown, the town like I do everything. Um, and
Yep.
I thought it was strange that this person who is, I don't know, this town loser guy arguably has the best career right now out of all of them.
Oh
So,
my God, right? Isn't that interesting?
yeah, yeah,
He's been in every single Guardians of the Galaxy movie
yeah,
that has been shot, and he started that series, that franchise, kind of as a tertiary character,
yeah.
and like now he's one of the main characters. It's
Yeah, if they make
incredible.
another Guardians of the Galaxy movie, they've set it up that he's the leader, and he just got cast,
Yes.
and it's probably no surprise why, but he just got cast in the new what is it, the new Superman movie. I think he's going to be Maxwell Lord because James Gunn is
Really?
directing that. Yeah, I mean, like, I get why he's being cast in like Suicide Squad and Guardians of the Galaxy and all this, but like,
I feel really dumb. Is he related to James Gunn?
yeah, I think they're brothers. Yeah.
Huh, okay.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It's just weird. Like, it's just like, this is, I mean, I think Jared Padalecki is currently Walker Texas Ranger, but does anybody watch Walker Texas Ranger? I don't
I
know.
had no idea there was such a thing as a new Walker, Texas. What does Chuck
Yeah.
Norris think about that?
First of all, like, yeah, I was gonna say, first of all, how do you recast Chuck Norris? You don't do that. Like,
No, holy.
Walker
And
Texas
for, with
Jr. I don't know.
with Jared,
Yeah. I mean, he
I
was
can't.
I didn't I it's so uncharacteristic of me. I've watched like 4 episodes of Supernatural. So I know he was on that show for forever.
Yeah, long time.
And I think the funny thing is, when I didn't watch Supernatural, it was because I was like, all right, this is gonna get canceled in like a year or two. I'm not getting invested now. And it went on for like 18 seasons or something stupid
Long
like that. It was
time.
like 15. Yeah. Mm. But yeah, Dean, I don't know. Dean,
I felt so
like, I
bad for
felt
him.
so regularly bad for him. Like, the fact that he's like,
Yeah.
he built Rory a car. Like, what teenage boyfriend builds their kid a car, or not their kid, their girlfriend a car?
built her
washes the
car.
thing.
Oh, and then
Yeah,
spoiler alert, Jess trashes
yeah,
it.
he does. And I was surprised that they never get like there's no insurance, like they never got it fixed up or anything. Like I don't know, they got in an
Yeah.
accident, but
I mean, Grandpa Gilmore is in the insurance business, so you would think.
I mean, it's isn't it the law? Don't you need you need insurance, right?
Well, you need
Maybe it's state dependent. I don't know.
you need property and casualty. So if you accidentally hurt somebody, they're covered. But collision is optional.
Oh,
So
okay.
once your car is paid off, if it's not worth much, you can drop collision. Well, if the bank still owns your car, you have to carry collision. But once it's paid off, you don't have to anymore. And Rory's car would presumably have been paid off. So collision, they probably weren't paying for collision. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
guessing.
I guess.
What did you think
Alex.
of
Oh,
sorry, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say Alex Borstein, but go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh, let's talk about Alex Borstein for a second.
Yeah, sure. Does she play a surly witch in like everything she's in? Like the same exact character that she is in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel if they handed her a harp in the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Isn't that fascinating? So the Palladinos wrote both shows, of course.
Yeah,
And I'm writing Marvelous Mrs. Maisel down as one of the shows we have to
sure.
talk about.
Yeah.
Um, but Alex was supposed to be Suki. She was originally cast as Suki. So
No.
Melissa McCarthy was not attached to the project at all. But Alex Borstein was a regular on Mad TV, and they would not let her out of her contract to tape Gilmore Girls. So she was allowed to film that one-off, maybe two-off episodes of as
Yeah, she was in a
Drella.
couple of them. Yeah. She plays the harp
Yes.
for people that don't remember what she was in that, but at the
Yeah.
end, she was in a few of them like early on, and then I can't remember if there was one a little bit later or not, but and when I say later, I mean definitely season 1. By season 2 she's out. Um
Yeah. You mean as
but I was
Drella or as a different character?
why is that a thing? I mean she's I've never seen her as another character, but I think she's just out of the show entirely now.
Yeah, she is. Yeah, I don't remember
Cuz
now.
there is a point where there's somebody playing the harp at the inn who's not her, and I was like,
Yeah.
whoa. The funny thing is the first thing I thought is like, what the hell is Alex Borstein doing that she can
I
come
know.
back and be the harp player? Because I didn't know about Mad TV. I did know about Family Guy, but Family Guy would have been on its hiatus at this
Yeah.
point. Like I think they
Yeah.
filmed a couple of seasons, went off the air. There was a few years the DVD sales prompted them to come back, and then
Yeah.
she's been on that for forever since then.
Forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can just hear Daniel Palladino in the writer's room. What if we got a tiny woman who's playing the harp and who's just really mean to everybody? Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
funny?
Yeah.
It wasn't. It wasn't funny. It was just like, wow, this is uncomfortable. Why is she being so mean to these people?
I don't know. I like her so much that it was a pleasant. It was nice to see her. I
Yeah, I
guess
like
you
her
didn't
too.
need both her and Michelle treating everybody that came in rottenly.
Can
So
we
I guess
talk
if you
about
were gonna have one or
Michelle?
the other, it would be Michelle. Yeah, go ahead.
Agree. I really love Michelle,
Sure.
but he is like all of so Lorelai as a character is allowed to be just this mean, and Michelle like takes it to the next level.
Yeah.
And you're just like, I love you, but why? Why?
Yeah. And I think it's just hilarious that Michelle and Lorelai's mom get along so great. Every time.
Yeah. It's pretty funny.
Um,
Well, in the same way that Paris and Richard get along really well.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
What other background characters were there? I'm trying to remember. There's oh, you
there's
know what
Taylor.
yeah, I was it's funny. I was just about to say because what I was going to say was I know that Amy Sherman Palladino never worked as a journalist because the town halls are so interesting and fun. Like
Right.
they're hilarious when really in reality when you get sent to cover a town hall, they're just the
They're
worst,
terrible.
boring. Yeah.
So, you know what's interesting about this particular town? In like season 1, episode 1 or 2, they reference the mayor, and he shows up and he does his thing. and you never see the mayor again. Taylor is town selectman, which is, I don't even know what that, like, it sounds made up to me.
Hmm.
Like councilman, selectman, and it's only him. Like, I don't think there's a town council. I don't think there's, isn't that weird? So like Taylor runs the show and everybody's just fine with it? I don't get that.
It seems like, I mean, I know Luke is adamantly against him being,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it would make more sense if Taylor was the mayor and people, but maybe that would just inject too much realism and then people, I don't get it. I don't get it. Taylor is a fun guy to not like, but other than that, he's kind of a nothing character,
Hmm.
which is a shame because it could have been, he could have been kind of interesting and deep, I guess. I don't
Sure.
know.
Are there any other characters we missed?
There's Miss
Like big ones?
Patty.
Miss Patty. I mean, the only thing I
Again,
really thought of with Miss Patty was how often she's smoking around like little kids, like when she's teaching them. And I
yeah.
guess they pull back from that a lot in season. I guess I'm on 3 now.
Yeah.
I haven't seen her
Yeah.
doing that as much. That's another 2023 observation, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like just could have been such an interesting, well-rounded character, but they made her a caricature, you
Yeah.
know? It's
Yeah.
it's a shame. Yeah, I
So
don't know. I guess overall we're disappointed in Gilmore Girls.
it kind of sounds that way. One of the things that I wrote down was imagine instead of having a score, just having somebody talk into a mic and go la 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 la, and then just use that every time we need a score. Like not even
Yeah.
different, like not even a different tone of la la la. Just la
Well,
la
there are
la.
different. So
La.
I own the soundtrack, don't judge.
Wait. You own the soundtrack. Is the soundtrack just the Carol King thing and then la la la
No.
la
It's the
la?
it's a lot of the songs that were used in season 1.
I don't
But
even remember songs being used in season one.
yeah, I'll
I was one of the reasons I was going to bring up music was because Lane,
yeah.
I mean, it's so important to her. Like, they talk about music all the time in this
Yes.
very like deep, the way that I would kind of talk about film, but then I'm like, but you're never really playing, like it's so important, but we're not playing music on the show at all. It's just la la la.
Yeah. And there are different la la la's.
Are there? Okay.
There, yeah, that's the one you
Is there a
sang the
sad
one.
la? Is that la la?
There's one that goes la 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 la
Okay.
la la.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's two. I
What I
gotta tell
wrote down
you
about the
that
theme song was that this could have been done by the same people that did the not Gilmore Girls, of course Gilmore Girls, the Golden Girls theme.
oh my god. Yeah.
It sounds like, and that's like I want to say somebody was just like, get me the Golden Girls theme, just make it a little different.
I'm sure Carol King will be thrilled to hear that
I'm
when
sure
she
she would.
listens to this episode.
Yeah.
Well, I hope I can tell you that it gets better. Season 2 was a low point. Season 3 is definitely better than season 2 in my opinion because Jess is finally kind of out of the picture a little bit.
Okay. I mean, I'm in season 3 now, and he's far from out of the picture, but
Ugh.
I'll take your word for it.
Oh, you
I'm
know
not
what?
gonna.
You're right. You're right. He
Yeah.
gets out of the picture late season 3. I
Okay.
forget. And
Sure.
that episode is trash. That episode
I
is
imagine.
hot garbage.
Yeah.
You have to get through it though. It's awful.
I mean,
But
I'm not enjoying it. Like, okay, so for the purposes of this show, you asked me to watch Gilmore Girls season
yeah.
1,
Yeah.
and I went beyond that and watched
You
2,
did.
and
You
then
did.
we watched The Watchmen. That'll be another episode coming up.
Yeah.
And then as
Yeah.
soon as I was done with Watchmen, I went right back to Gilmore Girls. I could have
That's
watched any number of other shows, but I went back to that and I've been watching it because like
that's
you get kind of
nice.
invested in the characters, and
Yeah.
I
It's
want to, like,
true.
because I know where it ends. I kind of want to see the in between. It's a lot to get there because it's those 23 episode shows, but I don't really have anything better to watch at the moment. So
That's
whatever.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. All right. Well, any last thoughts on the girls of Gilmore? What are you liking about it? What is making you want to keep watching it?
I mean, it's it's funny, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
I kind of want to see, like, I'm rooting for Lane. I don't know.
Yeah.
We touched on Mrs. Kim a little bit, but one of the things I was really surprised about, and one of the things that really disappointed me with season two, was how hard they kind of dropped the ball with Lane's story arc. So
Yep.
Lane's story arc in season two is she's dating this boy that her mother would 100% have uh, approved of had she known about him. But
Right.
Lane kept going behind her back and, you know, like doing all the
Yep.
stuff that Lane does to try to hide things from her. And then that ultimately leads to the boy being like, all right, I'm out. And I was so
Yep.
surprised that it didn't end, especially when she did tell her mom, like, there was a boy you would have approved, and now he's gone. I really thought like it was going to end with her showing up at the boy's door with the mom and being like, this is how much I like you. You know, like, this is how invested in this as I am. And instead, the season just kind of ended with Lane
Lane
being
being
grounded
disappointed.
forever,
Yeah.
you know, and they were just like, all right, we're gonna forget about Lane for the rest of the season.
So I think it's a function of this not being a show about Lane. If this were a
Yeah.
Lane show, that is the best way. How that is how it should have ended. That story arc, or that is how that piece of it should have ended, and then the romantic and relationship drama would have started. But yeah, this is
But you
not a
don't think
Lane
that, like,
show.
okay, I know that it's not her show, but at the same time, if you introduce a story arc for a character, don't you want to pay that off in some, you know, good way? I mean, it doesn't have
Apparently
to be a
not.
happy ending. It doesn't have to be a happy ending. But at the same time, like, to just like be like, all right, we're gonna forget about Lane for the rest of the season, like, just felt weird,
Stupid and
especially
weird. Yeah.
when her story arc was the most interesting thing about that season. Like,
Yeah.
I'm watching Lorelai's story arc in season two, which was I don't even know. Like, you know, like,
Yeah.
she broke up with Max, and then I don't know.
She's a little aimless in season two,
And so is
which I think
Rory. Like, I couldn't
is
tell you
part of
what
the
Rory's story arc was
yeah.
either, you know?
It's part of the sophomore slump. Like they just don't have a whole well, so one of the storylines in season two is Lorelai graduates from college, right? She gets her associate's degree, which is a really big
High
deal because
school.
she didn't no. She gets her associates.
When?
She did her GE in season two.
Lorelai. Sorry, I'm thinking Rory because we're
Yes,
talking about
no,
somebody
sorry.
graduating. Yeah, okay, yeah. Right, she was going to the business school. Yeah. Okay.
Right. And that event coincides with Rory's car accident. And there's all this drama about that. But that
Right.
is the only significant thing that I can think of that happens in either of their lives, barring relationship drama that
It's good that
season.
you brought that up because I had completely forgotten about Christopher. So I guess it's
Oh,
worth
yeah.
talking about that and how that felt so weird. Like, okay, I get that we're going in a direction of Lorelai and Luke, and we have to plant obstacles along the way. You know, it was funny.
Yes.
I watched episodes because of you. You asked me to watch episodes, and that was an awesome show. And
Yeah.
it's a show about Matt LeBlanc being on this show that's a remake of a British show, and they
It's a
make
great
this
show.
change to one of the characters where, like, one of the characters was a
Yeah.
lesbian on the UK show, and he's pushing for her not to be on the US show, and they think he's just doing it to be a jerk, and he sits them down and he's like, look, we got a long way to go here. We got to put stuff in the way, you know, of the two of them getting together, and that just clicked. Like, okay, that's the template of how we write shows, and I didn't even think
Right.
about it. But in this case, Christopher is a big deal to that family,
Yeah.
and he gets put in the way for like two episodes here. There's one where they have their little, you know, and then they do it again. And in the second time they do it, I guess they're back together. And they are back together for all 45 minutes before he runs off to be with pregnant Sherry. And I'm like, they could have put that off just a little bit. Like, even if it was just put off a few episodes more, he finds out she's pregnant. It was like,
There was
why
so
put
little
that obstacle
payoff.
there for, yeah, it was just
Yes.
nothing. And there was so much potential there that I was like, oh, this is the big one for Lorelai. Like, she's been pining over Christopher like for the
And
last 16 years, you know, at least.
and then
So
think about how devastated she would be if the relationship had lasted a little bit longer. Like she's
yeah,
devastated when he disappears because he's going to be
yeah,
with pregnant Sherry. But like you're right, they were together 45 minutes.
yeah. And
If they had stretched that for like 4 or 5 episodes, oh my god.
And then the impact of telling Rory about that. Like,
Oh my
yes,
God.
Rory does take it out on the dad, and we do see that a little bit, but there
Yeah.
really isn't the impact that this should have had. I guess that's the thing. Like, I am watching the show because I'm kind of invested in some of the characters, and I like to see
Yeah.
where they're going. And
Yeah.
it's humorous from time to time, and I like seeing the pop culture references. I'll be like, oh, I get that, you know. But what disappoints me about it is that there's so much potential, and it usually doesn't get fulfilled.
Yeah.
Would
Yeah.
I
The
recommend it?
payoffs.
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're into
Yeah.
this kind of show, it's nice. I mean, is it binge worthy? I don't know. I don't know if I would
Oof.
say you should sit down and watch 50, 60, 80 episodes of this show like in a row,
I
but
don't know. And okay, so here's something. I finished it. Like I got through
yeah.
all 7 seasons. The natural next thing for me to do would be to watch The Year in the Life.
Yeah.
And Netflix keeps pushing it at me. Netflix is like, "Oh, you just finished Gilmore Girls. Are you sure you don't want to watch this one next?" And I did watch it when it first came out, and I was so disappointed. I have no interest in rewatching it right now. Maybe in another year or so, but like, it was just not great. It was not. It was not great. Not great.
So how about you? Final thoughts on Gilmore Girls as far as recommendations go?
I
Seasons one
think.
and two, you know.
I,
We
I
may talk
think.
about this show more in the future.
Yeah, the episodes not written by Daniel Palladino I found to be charming and funny and fun to watch, interesting to look at. Um, but the episodes where he was in charge of the words coming out of people's mouths, people just got mean, and I just didn't. They were unlikable, and that makes it hard to watch.
Yeah.
So yeah, I it will it will always have a place in my heart. But the older I get, the more I'm like, oof, did not age well. In fact, there were some moments where, looking at it through the lens of 2023, one or two characters would use a word that we don't use anymore. And I remember thinking, ooh, didn't age well. You can't say that word. What are you doing, my friend? That's
I'm gonna
not
guess that this is
okay.
more along the lines of like the R word or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody used the R word, and I was like,
I want to say I thought I heard
oof.
that at some point, but yeah.
Yeah. And then somebody else, I forget what the context was, but somebody else implied somebody was gay as if it were a really bad thing, like something they should be embarrassed about. Like, and I was like, that just would never happen in on TV now.
Yeah.
I don't think. I hope not anyway. And I was just like, oof, that's not okay. That's not that's not okay. Yeah.
Aside from the
Anyway.
general lack of diversity anyway, like I think you have Michelle, you have Lane, you have Mrs. Kim, and that's it, right?
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was BingeFest. Definitely let us know what you think. Comment with suggestions. Tell us we're wrong. We might not believe you, but give us your reasons.
You want to tell people what the next episode is so they have, well,
Yeah. Next
yeah, go
time we're
ahead.
gonna be talking about Watchmen.
We're gonna watch The Watchmen. Well, I've already done
Watch
it
the
at this point,
Watchmen.
but yeah.
Yeah, the HBO show.
Yeah, the HBO TV series.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gonna be amazing. All right. See you
All
next
right.
time.